So first up, when we're multiplying two fractions, this is the easiest operation between fractions. If you can get something into multiplication form, then that is the best way, because this is how easy it is to multiply two fractions. So if you have the standard form here, your numerator, denominator, we stick with the numerator and we multiply those, and then we multiply across the denominators there. So our working would be 1 multiplied by 1 over 8 multiplied by 8. You don't need to do that step. You can do 1 times 1 and 8 times 8. And there's your final answer. And it's pretty straightforward. A couple of things to note is that when you multiply by a fraction, it makes it smaller. So you'll notice that 64 is a denominator, or 1 over 64 is smaller than both 1/8 and 1/8. This is the same even if the fractions are different fractions. In the case where the numbers are a bit bigger, it's still possible to multiply across the top, 3 times 4, and then multiply across the bottom, 32 times 11. And you can see that if we're having to multiply by 11 down the bottom, it's a little bit more difficult. It turns out to be this. We can then cancel that fraction down, etc. But what I want to look at is how do we make our life a little bit easier before we go ahead and do this multiplication. Well, as we can see from this stage here, we have a combination, well, we've basically combined the two fractions in the beginning to be one fraction by showing the multiplications that are going to take place. And before I actually do that big old multiplication with 32 times 11, I'm going to write the numerator and denominator as their factors. So I can see that 32 can be written as 4 multiplied by 8, then multiplied by 11. And what we can do initially to simplify this is, because all of the numbers on the top and the bottom are just being multiplied, that means that any one of those numbers are a factor of the place where they are, the numerator or the denominator. They're a factor. And if they're a factor, they can be cancelled. So the 4 is on top and on the bottom, and so it can be cancelled. So what we end up with is a more simple fraction to worry about, which is 3 over 8 times 11, which is 3 over 88. Now, a very good indicator that we've finished here is that 3 is a prime. And I bet, or I don't bet, I know that if we were to carry on, this fraction would be 3 out of 88. This gives me an indicator of what I would have divided by. So looking at the relationship between the numerators, I would have divided that by 4. So I could tell that 352 divided by 4 is 88. So try to cancel the fraction down first using factors, and when that's all done, you're simply multiplying the numerator and the denominator.